The Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee. It is the 17th day of August, 2010. Who died yesterday, 33 years ago? Anybody know? 33 years ago. A man. Very good. Who said Elvis? Hey, Reggie, you get a CD. I'll get you a CD for Reggie Jones Sawyer. So, Elvis died, so we remember Elvis today, and we welcome everybody here. This is an important meeting to discuss issues as related to our Department of Cultural Affairs for the facilities and the public-private partnership. The only thing we're going to say in the future is the enhancement of the relationship between those who absolutely have boundless energy and care but may not be directly connected to the official city governance, but still doing things what government feels is very strong and be supportive. So we have a series of cards, and Mr. Wesson will be joining us. Mr. Reyes will not. This is a special committee. I did meet briefly with Mr. Parks of our Finance Committee, who is very interested in this, and I think one thing that we have to do is separate, Ms. Garay, the number of public buildings that are not under your umbrella. I want to look at the umbrella of arts. There's many meaningful programs, but I don't want you to get caught up in their challenge. So we look at the variety of issues as it relates to these buildings and facilities and how we could better enhance that. So we'll start off right now with the CAO's report. CLA. I start with CAO because A before L. Now CAO passes to CLA.
Andrea Galvin, CLA. Our report basically sums up what has happened since a motion was introduced for the CAO and Rec and Parks to convene a working group to discuss a RFP for public-private partnerships for cultural affairs facilities. At this point, I think it would, if the department and the CAO could come up to discuss what has happened since that working group has convened, that's what we recommend.
Repeat that.
For the CAO and the Department of Cultural Affairs to come
Yes.
up and give a status report on what has happened.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Hi.
Morning, Claudia Aguilar with the CAO's office. The working group has met 2 times to discuss the various pieces that would go into the RFP. Currently, we are working to establish costs from GSD for these municipal facilities. Part of the attachment to the CLA report is actually a working document. We are still in the process of collecting information from GSD. Currently, the department, which I'll let them speak for themselves, are working on a revised draft to circulate to come before you for your next meeting to give you, hopefully, close to final version to go out to RFP.
Now, do you know as a CAO how many public buildings there are? There's 14 that I believe are under the umbrella of the Cultural Affairs Department. And do you know how many others are there out there?
Buildings doing cultural?
Doing anything. I think what the interest of the City Council was that to try to get everybody on the same page, if I have my thoughts correct.
GSD is here, but the public, this is a little bit different from the public nonprofit policy that they're going through, because this is more of a partnership where they're
right. This is really so important that you articulate that so the council understands that you're different. These are different buildings than those that are in other relations with the city.
Mr. Chairman, Terry Sauer with the CAO's office. This item was specifically called out in the budget. Cultural Affairs in looking at various efficiencies. One of is in partnership already with some arts organizations. And so the direction was to look at those other facilities managed by Cultural Affairs, the 14 referenced here, in terms of entering into partnerships where it made sense, and that's what the department has been working on with the council offices, with the CLA, and with this office. So this is not tied into the larger issue of the nonprofit leasing policy, which has other the nonprofit leasing policy.
Right.
Involves other groups besides arts organizations.
I got
and
that.
that's on a
When I
separate
met with
track.
Mr. Parks this morning, because he's very strong on this issue, and I don't know how strong the whole council is on this issue, but he did reference all the other facilities. Can you just send me a little paragraph memo that articulates this? Because I want to protect the umbrella of cultural affairs and have council understand that that's what this effort is all about, because sometimes all get thrown. He wanted some of this shipped to General Services Committee, but I'm interested in our umbrella and taking the umbrella to council to see that we could remove the umbrella, let the sun shine, or let the drizzle hit us, and let us refresh our commitment to the arts.
And, Mr. Chairman, what we can provide you, what may be helpful to you, is a number of years ago, the CAO and the CLA actually did a report on specifically on cultural facilities and what the cost to maintain those were, and the number, and broke it down by theaters, museums, and the facilities. I don't recall the numbers from that. I want to say
Okay.
we were talking about 35 to 40 facilities,
Right.
but we'd be
But that
happy
would
to.
include everything from Banning House to Travel Town and Barnsdale.
Yes, and we'd be happy to
Okay,
get
got
your
it.
staff a copy of that
Thank
report
you.
as well.
All right. So for the general manager, thank you very much, Terry and Claudia.
So,
Olga
just-
Garay.
Thank you, Councilman. So my understanding of the approximately 100 nonprofits that are currently using city land, not including the 14 we're talking about today, there's about 20 of them with an arts and cultural mission. So it's about 20% of the entire universe of nonprofits using city land are arts and culture. But
City
those are-
facilities.
Correct. And so-
What you need to do is we need to focus on these 14
Correct.
today, but those other 20 or whatever that number is, get them in the umbrella, because I want to try to save everybody. But if it's a mission that is about cultural affairs, then there's justification for this public-private partnership.
Okay, we can discuss that with you
Whenever.
later, how to approach it.
Thank you very much.
So I just want to give a little bit of a context of what this whole effort has been about. Earlier this year, the Department of Cultural Affairs was directed to lay off 15 full-time staff members in an effort to reduce our staff size and costs. And the layoffs that were identified were all linked to art centers and theaters that the department manages right now. The thought was that if we could find operating and program managers for these facilities, the city would save personnel costs while still being able to partner with nonprofit arts organizations that would retain the kind of programming and services that are currently available to those communities. In order to do that, we were instructed to come up with a request for proposals that would make it an even playing field for interested nonprofit organizations who wanted to apply to take over one or more of these facilities. Your committee, the Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee, on May 7th, issued a motion to have our department work with the city districts, council districts that were being affected by this effort, and as well as the CAO and the CLA, to form a working group to create this request for proposal. As Claudia just reported, the committee, the working group has met 2 or 3 times to work through some of the major issues that are involved in creating such an RFP, issues that are really beyond the department to work out. So as such, we met yesterday again with members of your staff and Councilwoman Han's staff to put the final points on what the DCA recommendation is. Please remember that our goal is to identify and procure the most competent, most capitalized, most historied organizations to take over these facilities on our behalf. As such, the way that you cast the goal was to have DCA umbrella these 14 organizations that are going to be identified as part of an extension of our program, and that's how we've moved forward. So what we recommend is that there be a collaborative partnership agreement that is entered into once the RFP process is concluded. Once we've identified the nonprofits that are going to take over, that we enter into a collaborative partnership with these entities in order to attract the best qualified nonprofits. We really feel that it's imperative that we create a series of conditions that will attract the most bids. So as such, we would like to help offset ongoing operational expenses to the city, such as water, electricity, and gas. This is what we've determined that the organization should participate in these costs, that they secure daily building maintenance, security, and custodial services outside of the city family, and that a sliding fee scale be established as follows. Facilities of up to 5,000 square feet would be asked to give a fee of $500 a month or $6,000 annually. Facilities between 5,001 and 10,000 feet would be asked to pay $750 a month or $9,000 annually. And facilities of 10,001 square feet and up would be $1,000 a month or $12,000
Did
annually.
the CAO look at that?
We've been working with the group. We haven't, we're still.
Finalized, okay, that's okay.
This is the
general.
department's.
First step at it.
Correct.
Got it.
And so what we're proposing is that, that these fees, it's a good faith effort on the part of our nonprofit arts partners
Right.
to say that they're willing to participate in what is a costly proposition, but they're going to have to incur a lot of costs in order to run these places. They're going to have staffing costs and programming costs, et cetera. So we felt
They're
that
leaving home and they'll have to pay for their own in some
Correct.
respects. I got it all.
And so, finally, I'll say that in this year's budget, the FY 10-11 budget, the department foresaw that we were going to be partnering out these 14 facilities. And in the past, the 6 of the 14 facilities that are currently partnered out receive $15,000 a year from the department. Each. And so we budgeted this for this fiscal year $14,000 each. It's a reduction of $1,000, but now we have 14 facilities to contend with versus 6.
Got it.
So we figure that this is, again, a good faith effort from the department side to say, we want you to succeed. We want you to use these dollars to continue providing programs to the communities that surround you. We're eager partners. And so the design that we've come up with does require these nonprofit partners to pay a modest fee to the city, procure their own services in terms of security and maintenance, et cetera, but the department would be willing to come in, step up to the plate and give them $14,000.
We'll have more discussion on this as we work
Yeah,
through this thing.
and that's it.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Garay. We're joined by Councilman Wesson of the great 10th District. We're going to start public comment right now. So if I could ask you to vacate your seats.
Can I ask a question?
You could ask a question. I'm sorry, Mr. Weston.
Yeah, what's the square footage at William Grant Still?
Do you have that? Yeah, so they would have to pay $500 a month if this plan is accepted by you and then the council.
Now, I did see a colorful long sheet. Do you have that copy, Saul? The colorful long sheet?
We, considering it was still a work in progress, we thought that the spreadsheet that was already submitted with the CLA's report would be sufficient for now. Because
Get
we-
that spreadsheet, Mr. Wesson? If we get Mr. Wesson that
Oh, it's in my
spreadsheet.
packet, it's in my packet.
Okay, got it, okay.
I got another question, if I can, Mr.
Sure.
And here it is, right here, I just didn't read it.
Here's.
No, I'm good. Good work, Brother Johnson. No, he's got me. I don't need. I asked the question. I got the answer. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, what you're suggesting is that we have an RFP process where each facility, you would apply for each facility. And I think I had recommended that maybe you look at the possibility of bundling a couple of these together, because my fear is that there may be facilities that are going to be very difficult to break even, and there will not be a lot of desire. In fact, in particular, I have very serious concerns about William Grant Still, and I'm curious as to why you would not consider linking these or bundling these or whatever the proper
That's a good
term would
question.
be.
We did consider it. We did talk about it. The goal that we decided was really to the city's overall advantage was to make this as attractive to people who were going to bid as possible. And we felt that the more conditions that we put on the bidding process, the more difficult it was going to be to attract bidders. And so therefore, we decided that demanding that a bidder that's interested in, I'm just going to make this up, but in the theater in St. Pedro, the Warner Grand, to say, well, you can only bid on the Warner Grand if you also bid on the William Grant Still Center, is going to shorten the application bids rather than expand it. We can take it up with the working group again, but that was generally the thought process behind that.
Okay, I mean, I can see that there's some merit in that, but what we are attempting to do is to make sure that we provide these services throughout the entire city of Los Angeles. So I would appreciate if we would at least have another discussion where it relates to that, possibly even coming up with an optional approach. Okay. Not that I'm saying that I support that. My gut tells me that you do want to try to link some weeks, the weak ones with the stronger ones, or what have you. But I would like to, I just want to go on record, I'd like to have that totally flushed out before I would be ready to move on this, because I do have concerns. We have no parking. There's a lot of things that would make William Grant Still unattractive, even though it's just been a part of the community forever. And I want to do what I can to make sure that we provide those services, Mr. Chairman, because it's in an area where there are not a lot of services, and I want to see if we can possibly keep that together. So if you would please look at that.
I will.
That would mean a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'm going to call on the public comment, and if you need a little more time, you're welcome to continue speaking. We do a 1-minute clock in this committee. But if you have more you want to express, please feel free. So, Robert Farrell, Claire Nolan, Paul Gamberg, and Andrea, I want to pronounce it correctly.
Don't you remember this man, Mr. Laban?
I remember Mr. Farrell, when Mr. Farrell eloquently, on this date, 33 years ago, spoke of Elvis's death and adjourned for Elvis. And I say that in all reverence because it was a shock that Elvis died, and Bob Farrell stood up and adjourned in memory. And I remember that, Bobby, and it was very special.
And probably you and Mr. Farrell are the only two people that remember.
Elvis does. Elvis does.
I can't tell you what I did yesterday, but you remember something. 33.
Yeah.
You are very young at heart and mind, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Laban,
Good to see
Mr.
you.
Wesson, thank you very much for this opportunity. And Mr. Wesson, Mr. Laban does have a nice note from Elvis Presley's dad.
Wow.
Acknowledging the fact that the city council in Los Angeles noted the death of his son. Just a little something.
Right.
I stand corrected, Mr. Chair.
Members of the committee, I'm here representing the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. I also sit on the San Pedro Arts Cultural Entertainment District Board. Our concern primarily is with the Warner Grand Theater, and others will speak to that. But I'd also like to ask that in the recommendation that the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment be added to that study group of city departments, because we as a neighborhood council and our collaborating councils in the San Pedro area contribute money to the arts, including the Warner Grand Theater, and our capacity to participate is something I think the committee should consider.
Very good suggestion.
I never thought of that.
So ordered by Mr. Wesson. We add the neighborhood councils and inform them. So that's very good. Thank you. Claire?
Hello, my name is Claire Knowlton. I'm the Executive Director of McRory Art Center. We're one of the partnered centers with Cultural Affairs. We've been partnered with them since 1995. And for me, this document and the comments that have come so far raise a lot of questions. Specifically about maintenance, being in an 80-year-old historic building, what type of maintenance do you want a nonprofit to take on for a city-owned facility, and what are the costs of delayed maintenance to the city that might come if the nonprofit is the sole body responsible for the maintenance to the building? With the contract of $14,000 a year, but then also having rent payments, is there any sort of discussion about simply reducing the contract payment instead of having like these piddly rent checks that come in each month? It might be better for the nonprofits in terms of cash flow to have just kind of a set amount come in and not have little piddly checks go out. It's just a thought. Also, again, with security, what are the onerous responsibilities? What will they be on the nonprofit if a nonprofit does not provide security to the building and there's some sort of vandalism? Is that the responsibility of the nonprofit, or is that the responsibility of the city? There's just questions about where is the partnering here? Like, what is the city bringing to the table? Because at this point, it looks like reduced rent, and I would question the market value rent here. So I'm not sure how reduced the rent is. It's just how much of a partnership is this, and how much is it a nonprofit getting a small subsidy?
Good question.
Just to answer some of that too, and my thought is basic custodial work to care for the building. If there's a crack in the ceiling, it should be up to the city of that. If it's, all these buildings should be reviewed for the historic status so that they know that as to what the status of the building is in some form. And it's that kind of partnership. The most important thing is the drive, which the community group that operates the facility and how they engage people in to enhance their experience with art. But it's basic custodial service. And if there was an act against the building of a crime, I hope there's insurance that you would have that would cover that, because that's going to be a requirement for you to have insurance as well. But Ms. Garay, all the working group at some point will have an open meeting with all the 14, correct?
Just to be clear, the 14...
Answer the question, though, on there'll be some time that all of the 14 groups will be invited, and they'll be able to say, this is our plan. So as a committee chair, I don't want to have the committee not hear a proposal that these folks haven't heard first.
Right. Let me just say that of the 14 facilities, 8 of them are being run by the department. So it's not really 14 groups, because 8 of those facilities are being run by us. So it's 6 groups that are currently inhabiting 6 of the 14 facilities. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee, your committee understands that. My understanding, and I don't know if there's a city attorney here, is that we have to be very careful as to how we provide information to groups that are going to be bidding, because we cannot be seen as giving preferential treatment to a subset of groups that are already there.
Let me ask you a question. Can you put it online that everybody who looks to
Yes,
it?
absolutely.
And
The
just put it
RFP
online, that's how it will
Yeah,
operate.
the RFP
Okay.
will have all of that, and the reason for this public hearing is to hear exactly this kind of comment, so that as you as a committee and then the full council deliberates on this, you can take into consideration some of the issues that potential bidders are bringing up.
Terry?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, typically, also what would happen through an RFP process, or what is common, is to have a bidders conference. So once the RFP is
Right.
released, and then anyone interested in bidding on the RFP would come, and these kinds of questions would be answered by the department in an open forum, so that everyone would have access to that information. And that's a key part of the process,
Very
of
good.
getting that
Yeah.
information out.
Thank you.
Very good.
Olga? Did you know that Mr. Labange has a letter from Elvis Presley's father?
I
Dad.
didn't. That's the treat for today.
It's amazing. I just got a letter we did from Juan Antonio Samaran's son, as we stood in adjournment of him. So you think when we stand at the end of the meetings, it doesn't touch the souls of the people who are still, of those who passed. It does.
Yeah.
Paul?
My name is Paul Gamberg. I represent a current support organization for the department at Barnsdale, at the oldest cultural art facility in the city of L.A. The Barnsdale Art Center was established and set the pattern and made L.A. different from Chicago and New York, in that municipally funding of art organizations are due to Aileen Barnsdale's bequest in 1927, and that set the pattern for LA. We have so many concerns. There is so much troubling about where we're going right now that 1 minute cannot express it, not even come close. In the case of William Grant Stills, in the case of all of these centers, in the case of McGroarty, and I'm concerned with all of them, not just Barnsdale, because there's nobody at this table that's more intimate with the details than I am, to tell you the truth, including all the departments. I've spent the last 2 months with CPRAs getting factual data in total. We had a spreadsheet early on April 20th, and I understand where Mr. Parks is coming from. I have also great concern with public safety, but art is transformative. And if there should be a champion anywhere in this city for arts and parks, it's you guys. And you are, and I'm so grateful. But there is no way to do one size fits all here. I'll give you just a few tiny examples, but it's endless. You can't apply, and I have factual proof in a document you have in your packet from General Services, that annually, to protect Barnsdale Park security-wise from graffiti to Hollyhock House and other things that are very important to this city, we cannot have no security at the park, which has nothing to do with a building in the park. It has to do with the whole park of 11 acres.
Right.
This is just an example of doing one size fits all and what unintended consequences will fall out of that approach. It's $500,000 a year for security. General Services document attached in your pack.
I think Mr. Garcetti's very fine and committed deputy is here. I think Barnsdale, which does have an interesting relationship because it's not all park, it's part general services, it's part municipal arts from now cultural affairs. So I think that should be something discussed and looked at. Thank you for your comments, Paul.
There's so many more things.
I want to hear them, but we'll have them at another time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is my first time to make remarks in front of the City Council. I am Andrea Hegabelli, a native San Pedro resident where the historic Warner Grand Theater is located. I am a community volunteer, one of many, with the nonprofit Grand Vision Foundation, which has actively supported the theater by fundraising, providing improvements, and making it a wonderful place for the residents of San Pedro and surrounding communities to see a variety of arts programs, such as the LA Harbor International Film Festival, which Councilman Labange is familiar with, which has the film festival itself has an educational aspect, read the book, see the movie, where school children come to the theater and it creates for them a tie to the community by being in this building. And I certainly hope that the nonprofit Grand Vision Foundation is given its serious consideration for running it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elsie Swanson, Irene Mendoza, Liz Johnson, and Toki Robinson.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for your time today. My name is Elise Swanson, and I'm here wearing two hats today. I am a board member of the Grand Vision Foundation and the chair of the fundraising committee that's going to take on the challenge of raising operational funds for the Warner Grand Theater in San Pedro, if we are so fortunate to be the selected respondent to the RFP. And I'm also here as the chair of economic policy for the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce, who supports Grand Vision Foundation taking over operation of the Warner Grand Theater. I think what I want to say is that it's a daunting task to raise the funds to operate the Warner Grand. Our community stands ready to do it, but we support a specific leasing policy for the theater and keeping it out of the citywide leasing policy. As we all know, these facilities are they're not profit making. We're going to have to raise a significant amount of money for operations and programming, and we just support a specific leasing policy for the Warner Grand. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much.
Good morning, Councilman
How are you,
Labange. I'm well, thank you, Councilman Wesson. I have been a member of the Grand Vision board since it was founded in 1996 when the city acquired the theater. I worked 8 years for Councilman Savornich and 4 years for Councilwoman Janice Hahn as the district director. When the city acquired the theater in 1996, the theater was dark. It was boarded up. Who knew what was going to happen with that beautiful historic building? The city acquired the property as an anchor for the revitalization of downtown San Pedro. Since that happened, we have a very a successful ACE district now. We have a very active business improvement district and complete support for the theater from the community. The Grand Vision Foundation has had a record of successful fundraising. There was a restoration of the 1,500 seats in the theater. The community paid for individual seats. They have nameplates. A community member can go and find their seat in the theater. There was also the Light Up the Marquee restoration, which the Grand Vision Foundation was very successful in meeting with a very charitable founder who helped pay for the marquee. So I am here today to just give you a little history of the community's support for the theater. Grand Vision Foundation is very, very interested in being the operator manager of the theater. But of course, it will have to be with affordable cost. And our director, president here, Liz Schindler-Johnson, will speak more about the cost factor.
Thank you very much, Irene.
Hi, I'm Liz Schindler-Johnson. Hello, council and committee members.
Yeah.
Yes, it has been an interesting time. You know, we're cursed to live in interesting times, I think. I've been looking at the finances, working with our finance committee on the Grand Vision board. This is something that's been taking, basically we've been focusing very hard on whether and how we can take the opportunity and hope to be selected to operate the Warner Grand Theater. As you know, we have a lot of love in our community for the theater. We have to make sure that the deal isn't prohibitive. The first thing I wanted to do is draw your attention to attachment B. If you can see, the Warner Grand Theater, we just want to put it on record that we think these figures are inaccurate. It has, first, we don't understand why the Warner Grand Theater, even though they're not, hopefully we just want to say that we would not be able to function without if the nonprofit leasing policy of paying market rate rent was to be put in place, we could not operate the theater.
And I agree with you, and I don't know, Mr. Wesson, just to assure, do you have that feeling at all? I don't think market rates are going to help us hold the umbrella.
And, you know, I have concerns too, but I think that at least where it relates to that, we should not be afraid of having a discussion where it relates to that, because it's important for us in the department to minimize the cost to the city. So I think as this process unfolds, when we talk about it from all angles, hopefully at the end of the day, we'll, just, come up with something that works. But I feel your pain, or I understand your concerns.
But I think what the doctor is saying is, if they have a checkup, you got to know all the facts. So we're going to get all the facts and they have a baseline. But that doesn't mean the doctor is going to give you a few extra requirements to lift so that you're able to achieve your goals.
And we are truly prepared to lift many heavy things. The Warner Grand, as you can see, is vastly, it has vastly different figures than some of the others. Some of the others are 2,500 square foot facilities, which I'm sure have their share of challenges and concerns. Our facility is almost 40,000 square feet. It's a National Register historic building, 80 years old. Some ways it's falling apart. Some ways it's in great shape. We don't understand where this $2.50 a square foot figure comes from, and we're very.
Does anybody get $2.50 down on 6th Street?
No,
how about on Beacon Street?
We don't.
How about the tattoo parlor right there next to?
A lot less than that. And then we also think that these figures might be annual figures, not monthly figures that have accidentally.
We'll work with you, and I know your councilwoman is very committed to work with you.
We just appreciate the chance to come and see you and say that we love the building and we want to work with you.
We will talk later on. Okay, Mark Greenfield, Scott Crawford, Danielle Brazal, and Stephanie Regal. Hi.
Good morning, Councilman. I'm the former director of the Los Angeles Municipal Art Gallery, and I'm here as an artist and also representing the Los Angeles Municipal Art Gallery Associates, which is the nonprofit that supports the gallery. We understand the dilemma that the city is in with regards to the funding of the space. Lamaga would actually like to meet individually with city council offices to talk about possible solutions. But I think more importantly, we'd like to implore you to at least consider maintaining the public character and nature of the gallery. The municipal gallery represents a very unique niche in the city. It offers opportunities to artists that are not always available through the more established institutions, through colleges, things like that. So we exist without an agenda, so to speak. So I would hope that in the consideration of the RFP, that provisions be made to somehow maintain the public nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my name is.
I know, Paul.
My name is Toki Robinson, and I'm a student at Barnsdale Art Center. And I just want to say that I've been going there for years, and for 3 generations, my daughter and granddaughter. And I just want to speak for hundreds of other students that we love to have Barnsdale kept open. And just as a student, I'm speaking, and I do volunteer work for them also. I have no other thing to mention, just that I would love to keep the Barnsdale open.
How long have you been going to Barnsdale?
I've been going there since, maybe 30 years.
Did they have the old driveway before? No, the old. Anybody remember the old driveway up to Barnsdale here?
I remember when Barnsdale Park
Remember the music they used to play at Barnsdale before cell phones?
Yeah, and the Sunday events.
Great events.
Yes.
This is great testimony. Thank you so much, Toki.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Crawford. I'm former president of the Friends of Hollyhock House, and I currently serve on the board of the Barnsdale Park Foundation. I'm one of the founders of the foundation. You know, Barnsdale has been cited in the press as being one of the jewels of Los Angeles, which gives low-cost art classes to children and adults. The center has Hollyhock House. It has tens of thousands of dollars worth of artwork at La Maga. It has computers, it has easels, it has art supplies, it has kilns. Right now we have one security guard that's on from 11 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. During the day there are staff there, but they're not security people. All of this, in Hollyhock House, as you well know, there's Tiffany vases, there's Frank Lloyd Wright furniture, there's millions of furnishings that if I were a thief, I would be there in a second. One security guard is not enough. $1,000 a month would kill affordable art classes. You know, we could go for art classes just for the prestigious Los Feliz community, but that's not what Barnsdale is about. It's about art classes for the people. And the $1,000 is a security breaker, and I hope you'll rethink
Let me just ask a question here for the door. In the Griffith Park fire of 2007, millions of dollars worth of equipment was saved because Bernie Grijalva, who's the caretaker who lives in the nursery, was able to rally other workers long after the day of work to move the tractors from the nursery down to Los Feliz. So I'm listening to you. Is there any spot for a caretaker to live on Barnsdale?
No.
There's no spot.
Unless we built a house.
Okay.
I mean, Residence A, that would be a possibility. The pump house expanded, I don't think so.
Okay, it's just something to think about, because I think that's what we have to look in a lot of places where we give an opportunity for people to be a caretaker as well. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Okay, thank you. You got 2 votes out there, Scott, for that. No. Okay. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I'm Danielle Brazal, Executive Director of Arts for LA. And can I just say how incredibly awesome this dialogue is? And just to point out to the folks in this room today, arts and culture in this city plays a really important role, aside from a beautiful vase, which I think is incredible. But as you just pointed out, they're staging areas, they're community anchors, they're centers for revitalization. And what arts communities provide a city is a centralized hub of engaged citizens. And I would just ask, how many of you vote regularly? I think that says it. These people care about Los Angeles as much as you care about Los Angeles. And I know that we're in a super tough situation, but what's the annual deficit that we're facing right now in the city?
Oh, several millions of dollars.
Right. So this is budget dust in perspective.
Right.
So with that, we know that we're going to move to partnerships.
Right.
Let's take our time.
Right.
What's the community impact report? We're hearing from McGroarty, we're hearing from William Grant Stills, we're hearing from Barnsdale, very different communities, really different access to resources, really different community needs. So, what's the community impact? How can we empower communities to drive this a little bit more? How can we give them the tools and the resources that they need to really, really be successful? Because otherwise, I mean, I fundraise for a small nonprofit advocacy organization, and let me tell you, it's tough. And I'm good at it. So if people don't have the professional development skills, the resources, or functional buildings, they're not going to be able to survive. And we're going to see closures, and we're going to see further urban decay in a matter of years. That's real. So I would really suggest community impact reports. I would highly recommend looking at interdepartment impact reports. Can general services handle this? And what's the current state of these facilities to ensure that these nonprofits aren't doing something that they're not going to be able to achieve?
I understand that, and if you have any questions,
That in-
Mr. Wesson,
80 seconds or something?
whatever it was, you said you were
Good
good,
morning.
so that's
Taking
it.
care of business, Tom.
All the way. Here's the thing. The whole concept is this. There's a general fund, and the general fund goes to a variety of issues. The council has to try to stop using the general fund because it's overwhelming. So we have to create these partnerships. But at the same time, we have to look how to reduce the cost to government.
Right.
I just asked if there was a possibility to have someone live on Barnsdale as a responsibility in a way. And there was a difference of opinion, but maybe that's a creation to look at that so that we could do that for the life of this gap that may not come back for a while. In our lifetimes, the economies of the world have changed drastically, and we have not found a way to commit it. But I will tell you this, more neighborhood councils has voiced their concerns for arts and land use issues. Those are the two things that I think they really get their voice up in, which is very good. So those partnerships are very keen. Mr. West, anything to contribute as always?
The only thing that I would say, and I agree with, I forgot your name.
That's okay. I'm Danielle Brazal.
I agree with Danielle where this is, in my view, I would, coming from Sacramento,
Right.
where we had billions of dollars, shortfall. In my view, this is budget dust. I mean, it just is. And I would like to see us go another way. I just don't see that occurring. I want people to be sensitive to the department, though.
Yes.
Because, and I think I asked this of Olga at a meeting. I mean, she didn't take this job figuring that, 14 months later, she was going to be told that she had to make these drastic reductions. She was instructed to do that. So realize that what she is attempting to do is based on instructions that she was given. But I do agree with you, and the one thing that's so important about this dialogue, if there's ever opportunity to be creative and think outside of the box, this is hopefully what occurs during this discussion, because we are going to have to change the way that we do things. We are going to have to come up with a way for public and private partnerships that are actually functional. And we do have a responsibility to the people of the city to provide. I mean, we're the second largest city in the country, in my view, the greatest city in the world, and we have a responsibility to the arts. But we also have a responsibility to other services as well. And what I can say, Mr. Labange, I agree with you where it relates to the two issues that the neighborhood councils seem to talk about the most. But if we look at other reductions, trash reductions or police reductions and fire reductions, you're going to see those two items expand. So I think one of the reasons why they haven't been so vocal on those issues is because those are the issues that we have tenaciously fought to keep in place. But let's just hope and I think we should take our time. We want to do the best we can to try to make this as right as we possibly can. I think this is a very good dialogue, and I don't think there's such thing as a bad or stupid idea.
So we can look forward to community impact reports and some interdisciplinary, interdepartment reports on if
I think you could. I don't know if we're gonna. I'm not interested in reports as much as giving people the opportunity to float ideas.
Great. Yeah.
And then try to collectively do it. I'm not interested in
No, I
paper.
understand.
I'm interested in dialogue.
Great.
And trying to find out and see. Okay, here's a bill for your power. How are you paying it? Who could collectively? Who would step up? Is there an insurance company in Southern California say that we want to be the proud sponsors of art in Southern California and insure every one of your facilities at a rate that's reasonable, yet does collectively give you the opportunity to have more punch? This is the type of partnership that we have to create, but there has to be a call on that. But to write reports,
No, I mean, not a report
Right.
for a report. It's about allowing communities to chart their path. One question for you. Where are disaster centers? When the big one hits,
high schools,
high schools,
right, middle schools, elementary schools.
art centers?
McGrody wouldn't qualify because it's 80 years old and it's probably not done, but it doesn't, everybody's in it. But I will tell you this, in the middle of the night, you're not going to call up Olga Garay if someone's coming through your window. You're going to call the LAPD. In the middle of the night, if there's a fire that's coming towards your house, you're going to call the Los Angeles Fire Department. At the same time, there is public safety, public humanities, and they have an equal importance to a city. It's our job to try to find a way to get more dust to the gold which art creates in so many ways. Let's get back to the public comment. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. My name is Stephanie Regal. I'm representing Hilltop Nursery School. I'm a parent there. Angela, our director, is here as well. First, I want to just say what a wonderful, as was just stated, partnership we're hearing about, this dialogue, this opportunity to speak and discuss this particular issue. We're part of the rest of the 100 nonprofits on the list in a city building, city-owned facility that is up for this lease discussion. Our facility, we've been in Bellevue Park for over 50 years. We've been in our building built by CDD money for 25 years.
That's where I've heard of you before.
Yeah, CDD. We come around. Yes. I mean, I'm just a parent with a 5-year-old. It's 2 to 5 child care. We do have a number of low and moderate income families, over 50% of our families. It allows them to work. Basically, we are asking for the same opportunity and dialogue to be able to find a way to continue being where we are without jumping to market rate rent, which would shut our doors. It's devastating. So I guess we're here to listen and try to understand and try to keep up because we don't have the same wonderful.
Well, I think what we should try to create, Regina Adams is here, the Assistant General Manager of Recreation and Parks. We used the analogy earlier of an umbrella for these 14 arts. There's a bigger umbrella because Recreation and Parks has the most volunteers of any organization in its park program and these type of programs to try to create an umbrella that says, is this child care a facility which the city's not paying for?
No.
That is being done. We complete our mission, but at the same time, we're sharing the facility. There's a way to try to work that out, at least but as Mr. Weston said, there's a reality coming that this whole thing has to be equal. But at the same time, I do want to ask that everybody do be very communicative, if that's the right word, Madam City Attorney.
Works for me.
Talk to your council offices, make sure they know, talk to your neighborhood councils, make sure they know, make sure your voice is heard. I hear you, and Mr. Wesson hears you, but I think collectively, we have to go on, so.
My name is Angela Roa, and I'm the program director of this Hilton Nursery School, and I just want to say that we are a nursery school, but this is a place where the children sometimes is their first time to have a glimpse to art and culture. So we relate to all of you because we do offer cello concerts, little theater. I mean, we do the art and culture work with those young children, but also we are all related. My daughter went to Hilltop. My daughter went to Barnsdale Park. And I'm also a performing artist that have used park as a venue. So the idea is that in reality, we are all connected. And I think that is wonderful that you give us the opportunity to have a dialogue. And we know and we understand, Mr. Weston, that we need to change the way. But again, this is budget dust. I like this way of saying. And I'm sure we can find a way to keep those services for the community without impacting all of us. Even if we have to pay $500, we close our doors too.
Right.
Yeah, and just two things. Just the preferential, Olga mentioned, we cannot be seen as giving preferential treatment to a subset of groups. And I hope that's not what is happening here.
Correct.
But that we in the same position of being on a city-owned facility can have the same kind of dialogue, please, for us. With your help.
We're dealing with the arts department right here, but I certainly will work with this, and I don't know if you work with Mr. Garcetti's office, because I have the same situation.
Yes. Yeah,
On
and
that. And do you know what Bellevue Park was before it was Bellevue Park?
No.
A reservoir for DWP, and I bet you they gave it to this was in the good times, they gave the land, I don't think we even bought the land, I think they closed the reservoir, it was a covered reservoir, and then they
And
created
then the last comment, yeah, just minimizing, Mr. Wesson, the cost to the city. I agree, and I think if our facility, for example, goes under, there's a cost of all of that childcare. There's a cost of that park becoming dangerous again, as it has been in the last decade. So that's a different kind of cost
Thank
that
you
is
very
a bigger
much.
impact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Vicki from Barnsdale Park. Victoria, if you're from Barnsdale Park, I got to work on your penmanship. Victoria Claw, very good right there. It's very artistic. I apologize there. Jacqueline Kerr, I know Victoria from a long time. She was very helpful. Nyla Oslanian, and Sheila says she loves me, says she never leave me. Who wrote that song? Tommy Rowe, I think. Okay. Remember that song? Sheila says she loves me, says she never leave me. True love will never pass. Man, that's old rock and roll. Yes. Only because I know you so long, I make that exception. Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't we start at that?
Okay.
All right. Nyla Arslanian, President of the Hollywood Arts Council, Vice President in charge of advocacy for the Barnsdale Art Park Foundation, and Chair of the Culture and Events Committee of the Greater Griffith Park Neighborhood Council. First of all, speaking on behalf of the Hollywood Arts Council, that we are in solidarity with all of the people that have spoken today so eloquently, and we just stand with you during this process. We see this as a challenging process and a process of opportunity. And in that regard, with the Barnsdale Art Park Foundation, we are looking at our own house as we move forward in order to be able to be in a position to really evaluate the situation when the RFP does come down. The challenges with Barnsdale is that we're looking at three separate things. We're looking at a park that people go and they use it as a park. We see it as a buildings where arts programs are delivered, and we see that it delivers programs that really serve thousands of people, the people that go to La Maga, to this wonderful exhibit that just opened the other night, 1,000 people in attendance, our fabulous artists who have used Barnsdale Art Center for so many years, and the children that the Art Center serves. And these are all challenges and all things that have to be addressed. We're watching, we're waiting, we're engaging during this process, and deeply appreciate today's hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on your 25th Annual Hollywood Arts Council Children's Festival that you just held. It's a wonderful event.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, too.
You betcha.
Good morning. I've lived in Los Feliz for 6 decades and have watched the park go up and down, and I deeply love it. My family has been very involved in Barnsdale. I'm Executive Director of Barnsdale Arts FOJAC and on the Barnsdale Art Foundation Board, and was present at the foundation at the beginning of this foundation after the renovation of the park. I know that LA is a world-class art city, and this dust would make a huge difference. I can understand that partners are going to be asked to provide programming, and if they are going to program for success, I don't think any of these additional expenses can be borne. There isn't the revenue for it. You cannot get enough revenue in an art center to support it. You cannot expect a group that takes over to have a track record that will get grants for years. Certainly not in this economic environment. We're a city that has hardly any corporate headquarters. Philanthropy in the arts is pretty targeted and does not include middle and small scale groups. You're really asking us not to succeed. The Armory is an example of a very high-functioning, excellent art facility and art center. I've spoken with Scott Ward, and he has said over and over again, there is no way that you can have a bottom line that is robust without additional funding. You will never get it from revenue from the programming. So that's something you should really remember. And just a side bit, there was a caretaker who lived in Barnsdale, in Hollyhock House.
Very good.
Previously. And I know his name if you want to contact him, Barry
Good.
Markowitz.
Okay, good. That's very good. Last question. Someone puts a brush to your head, okay? And they say, we could save Barnsdale by charging to park. And now that revenue go to help Barnsdale in their art program. It's always been free, but if we charge for park or something like that, would you be interested in that?
I don't know. There are a lot of people who can't afford the parking. That wouldn't be, it's sort of like a sales tax. It's not an equitable tax. And I don't think the revenue from it comes close to just Paul's number on just all the extraneous costs, not including programming, for just keeping the junior art and adult program is $400,000. We're not going to get that from parking.
Thank you, Sheila. Say hello to your, yes.
Mr. Chair, can I ask Olga a question? I'm having an extremely senior moment right now. And I need
Scott, will you give Olga the chair? Thanks, Scott.
Thank
you. What is the total number that you're being asked to reduce your budget? I mean, dollars and cents wise.
We were not given a finite number, but I will say that by laying off the 15 people associated with these art centers and theaters, there was a savings to the department of $835,000, which the department doesn't get to keep. It goes to the general fund. As you know, the whole layoff effort was to reduce the city's financial gap. And so it's not like the department gets to reinvest that money. It's money that it's taken towards the funding gap in the city's general fund. If you add the indirect costs associated with those full-time positions, the total is $1,179,540. So, again, those are dollar figures that we don't even see. I will say that subsequent to laying off these staff members, a number of council members became very distressed because these are services that are based in council districts.
I know I was one.
I know you were one, and you were responding to the community because these are vital linchpins for community safety and health, and so it's not a huge number, but the impact of reducing these staffing members is deeply felt. And so what we've been doing the last 3 or 4 months is trying to undo what we were directed to do by bringing back many of these staff members on a part-time basis, because that's all we can do right now. So if this RFP process doesn't work out, and I think I totally agree with you that it will probably work out for some facilities and not for others. Our department doesn't have budget right now to continue the fight beyond the end of this calendar year.
Okay, I got it. Just hypothetically, somebody says, I'm going to make sure that this department receives an additional $1.2 million for the next 3 years. So you got an additional 1.2 or whatever the figure collectively. Wouldn't that change the way we would shape the RFP?
Absolutely.
We would still want it. And the reason why I asked is because I have a facility in the district that I'm very fortunate to represent. And Olga and my staff a few years ago did successfully work something out with the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. And we as the city, we still pay for a lot of it. I mean, we still pay for a lot of it. I agree with you. I cannot envision, even Mr. Labange, if we had drank a case of beer each, no way could I envision that these facilities could ever make money.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it would take. I would be afraid to take anything that would make me believe that that would occur. So that is my biggest fear. I think that it's possible to create these partnerships, but I do think we need. I do think we need to try to come up. I just refuse to believe there's not some rich arts organization, something that would not. We're supposed to be a world-class city, and what we're doing to Olga, I feel terrible. What we're doing to the city is a disservice.
But I don't think that person would want to give money to the city. They'd
But
want to
see-
give money to these foundations, directly.
Or, and what we should talk about, maybe not directly, but when you create these partnerships, they might be willing to give it to the partnership. And I get that city piece, but I think we've got to creatively come up, we've got to at least ask the question, beg for the money, because realistically, I mean, these places can't, I mean, these organizations can't pay rent like that. You could charge for parking. You could have a caretaker. William Grant Still in my district, you have a caretaker there. Somebody starts some stuff with that caretaker. The caretaker goes outside and says, "Cut it out," and they shoot at him. No, you need real security there. So anyway, I just have a lot of concerns where it relates to this, and I'm kind of disappointed in our mindset as a city. This is Los Angeles. This is Hollywood. This is, and I'm not saying that for an applause. It's just that there's got to be a way, is what I'm thinking.
There are other
I just
cities.
haven't come up with the way, but there has to
Sheila's
be
got some ideas.
a way.
There are other cities and models. I'm very involved with LAUSD and the Wallace Foundation planning for the next 10-year art plan. And I'm part of an LA Arts Coalition, and we're looking at models of other cities where arts are used as community building mechanisms. They're used for civic engagement, and it becomes a project of the entire city. It's not confined to schools, and not confined to art centers, but the whole city becomes engaged in it. And that's happening in Pittsburgh and not in Los Angeles. I don't get it.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's the beach here, and I swear that's what makes people not do, internal things that they do in Pittsburgh. Because there's always the beach, so people go to the beach. I don't mean to be soft on that, but these are great ideas. And Mr. Weston, you're right on point. We got to find a way. The Department of Recreation and Parks in the last few years created, under Mr. Sanders, the commission, and Mr. Muckery, the general manager, a foundation. The library has a foundation. What's up with our foundation?
Well, we've been talking to the city attorney's office about creating a foundation since I got here, and we're getting sort of mixed signals. We were told that no city staff could participate in creating a separate fundraising foundation, which I find very difficult to imagine.
We'll work with you on that, Olga, because
I drink
the police
always.
department has a foundation, and there's someone out of the chief's office that liaisons to that. The fire department has a foundation. Regina, does Recreation and Parks have a liaison? They don't have any staff doing work at the foundation, but they have a liaison to the foundation. So we should have a foundation. And also, historically, in our county, we have a county art department, and we have a city municipal arts facility. And there's different wavelengths they're on. There's a lot of money that goes into LACMA, deservedly so. But to get the people's centers of art enhanced is a challenge that we have to find a way to do it. So Sheila, I'm going to thank you, and thank your brothers very much.
Last thing I want to say where it relates to Olga, I don't want people to think that, I just support her tremendously, even though I do, but I just want you to know, and I want to say it publicly on the record, that in a lot of ways we're doing you a disservice, and I appreciate what you are attempting to do. I just want to ensure that you stay as creative as possible, and I know this is a difficult time we're all in, but I hope you hang with us on this, because I do truly believe better days will come.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask that Scott Crawford and also Suzanne Tishik? Tara. Nice, Suzanne. Take a seat. Sorry. Thank you. Victoria.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Victoria.
You didn't say hello to me.
What's your name? Oh, hi, Herb.
Okay.
Herb.
Now that hurt my feelings.
Mr. Weston.
I quit, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't even
Come back.
I couldn't even get a hi, Herb. And what's your name? You're gonna make me cry.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm fine.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure's mine.
Okay, Tom. Well, I've been painting faces for the past few weeks up at the wine tasting at Barnsdale on Friday nights to raise money and talk about dust.
Budget dust.
Thank you, budget dust. I mean, what I'm doing is nothing, I know it, but to pay a few bills, to help to pay a few bills. These are the jewels in the soul, I feel, of Los Angeles, of our arts community. They're the living soul of it. Hollywood sign is very important, but it's a thing. It's sitting on a hill. It's part of our identity as well, but it's not a living identity. It's just a sign. We got so many. We saved the sign, right? Okay. Well, who helped us at the last minute to save the sign?
Hugh Hefner.
Thank you. And how much money did he give?
$900,000.
Okay. So can we call Larry Flint, maybe?
I don't know. I'd rather call Mr. Hefner. So I'd rather call Mr. because I know him.
Well, maybe he.
I know him through this donation.
Because they might want to get into. They might want to get into this competition of giving, and Larry might be really into it. I mean, really, we've got with all the money we've got here, somebody's got to step in.
Well, you could call. Any of you could call, and you could
Hefner?
ask. Well, I don't know. You could call Mr. Flynn. I don't think that magazine is artistic, and I haven't looked at that magazine in 30 years. And when I got elected, my brother Mark said, now you can't look at Playboy at Bill's Liquor, and I haven't looked at Playboy at a newsstand. But I understand what you're saying.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have anything negative to say where it relates to Larry Flint. I guess I come from a different culture. If he wanted to give us $1 million, I would drive him to the bank. It's what I think we have to do, and you're real creative at this. I think the city has to come up with an official ask, and I don't even know how we do that. Right. Where we are asking for somebody to help us. Where it relates to trying to save our cultural affairs. And I don't know if you do it via some kind of city resolution or whatever, but like I said, you're good, your staff is very creative. I think part of what you need, I mean, people have to know what you need.
Right.
And I think we as a city need to come up with some kind of a formal way to request from those that have deep pockets, those that are looking for tax write-offs and things of that nature, those that love the arts, those that recognize the importance of it, a way that, I mean, when they're reading, God, that's all they need, 1.2 million?
Exactly.
And so, but Victoria's not going to get the kind of, see, I remembered your name. Victoria's not going to, Victoria's not going to get the same type of traction. I don't know if we as the council ask the mayor to ask, or can we as a council ask? Can we do something that's legal or what have you? Anyway, somebody should ask for it, and I don't care if it's. Like I said, I will drive Larry Flint to the bank.
And I respect Mr. Flint. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I have more of it. I guess you don't see either one of those magazines, Mr. Weston. They're a little different artistically, and I don't know if anybody could speak of that. But anyway. But we could do that, and I think what we should do soon, because I like this room, and I like the people from San Pedro here, we all should gather on a street corner to voice out, because the whole thing for the Hollywood sign started with one day. It started 8 years ago when I got elected, and it was one of my goals. But finally, when we got to the point of doing where we raised enough money this way, we went public. then it was heard, and Mr. Hefner heard it on NPR and said, I should do something. And so that's what happened. So we'll see what we could do. And thank you, Mr. Weston. This is very good, this meeting. Scott, for Ms. Kerr.
So our mayor has declared Los Angeles the cultural capital of the world. Tourism is our number one industry. If we don't keep feeding our culture, if we don't have kids who go to Barnsdale rise up to work at Universal, we don't have tourists. And if we don't have tourists, we might as well close up shop because there will be no jobs. And if there are no jobs, we don't have to worry about the police and the firemen. So, you know, it's all a matter of where the city is thinking. Thanks.
Well, I think right, your core service, who said core services? Yeah, I said up here, I'll give you another minute, Paul. The Daily News had an editorial and against things like we're talking about today and more for core services just on Sunday. So if you get a chance, look at the LA Daily News, and if you have a reaction to them, express yourself. But Paul, just go real quick.
Yeah, what I'm advocating now for is that you guys read the documents I sent in, because in fact, the answer is in the pieces of paper. There are solutions. There really, truly are solutions to this mess. But first, we have to represent it accurately. It's not a $1.5 million mess. It's a $30, $40, $50 million mess. The facilities charges for these 116 buildings, it's a big number.
But no one's going to give money to the city if it's going to a building that they think the buildings should be responsible for. But they will give money if there's free-spirited people who are creative who want to go into that house and create art.
We need endowments. We need endowments for the art. I agree.
We need to get a foundation before the end of the year, Olga. That's key.
We need endowments that will support the cost of the. In other words, when Aileen Barnsdale gave 11 acres to the city, it was a Trojan horse, not by design but by accident, because into posterity the city undertook an obligation. And the obligation is to maintain that park in fine condition for art purposes. There's no money to accompany that gift. So the problem is, it doesn't matter what it's worth. The city can't use it unless we attract big money.
26 years ago, I think, or 26 years ago, we had the Olympic Games in Los Angeles in 1984. Out of those games came the foundation, which left $90 million. Now they have $180 million, and they do have an art component, but they're very much into recreation, to athletics, and that. So we have to look at this areas here. We have to work, Ms. Schechter, we have to have an outside open meeting with no agenda just to talk about these issues. Thank you, Paul.
Final tiny point. To involve the residents, in other words, this operates, whether you realize it or not, this facility charge operates as a tax on the people you represent. And they're not involved in the working group, and they need to be. In other words, you need people who know where all the bodies are to help you create the money and the solutions. Expand the working group. Whatever the city attorney has as a problem with this, we handle it. It's easy to handle. I'm not bidding on the park,
Very
but
good.
I can help.
I like your shirt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it.
All right, last public speaker is Suzanne Tara.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lavange. And my name is Suzanne Tara, and I am the Managing Director of the Lancashire Art Center in Council District 4. And I'd like to thank you and Ms. Schechter as well for all of your support these last few months. It's really meant a lot to us. And we're also very grateful for the opportunity to speak at this hearing today. To address, our concerns, I, like Claire expressed earlier, the Road Theater Company, who is the privatized operating organization of the Lancashire Arts Center, also inhabits a historic landmark built in 1930. The costs that would be insurmountable in terms of maintaining that building, because there are only certain things that we can do because of its historic stature. For instance, the signage is out on the front of the building now. It's a neon signage. General Services Department is always very quick to respond, but has indicated to me that they're unable to fix the signage because they have to require quotes, et cetera, and it's not part of their responsibility to do so. We wouldn't be able to incur those costs or any of the others. We are contracted by the city to provide 20 hours a week of programming for free or very low-cost programming, and we provide 70 hours. The monies that we receive from Cultural Affairs is far less than the hours that are required to actually get the work done. The monies go for a 30-hour administrative position. It takes 60 hours to get the work done in our center. Like the pantry, we're never closed. We're open 7 days a week.
Are you never without a customer?
We are never without a customer.
Right, that's what the pantry
Yeah,
is.
and I think we might have to start serving food now too, and get eggs and toast and things going. But I just want to express that we are very willing, moving forward, to do whatever it takes. But these additional monies are very difficult for us to come up with.
Right.
We have a 40-seat venue, and per equity, et cetera, we're required to pay our actors. The little bit of money that we have that comes in through our ticket sales rolls right back into production, and the 70 hours a week of additional programming mostly is free to the public.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank
I want to
you.
ask you a question there
Yes.
because it just thought of me. Some facilities, in order to live, have to have a beer and wine license. It helps them. I've thought about the Warner Grand. They have an event, and it's there. I think we should look at that, Madam CAO, to see if we could get these facilities. So when you have an art opening or whatever the case may be, there's an opportunity to help pay the light bill by creating these situations. And I don't know, at Barnsdale, I would love to see it's such a pretty view. And I'll tell you, in Vancouver, anybody been to Vancouver, British Columbia? The best restaurants in Vancouver or the one restaurant, not the multiple restaurant, the one restaurant that fits into Queen Victoria Park, Stanley Park, or wherever it is. Not to say I want to see restaurants in parks, but there's an opportunity to create that if it's done right, and we have to look at that aspect if it's done right. So, okay.
And just to reiterate too, we have a company of 100 volunteers, and so if it's necessary to stand on street corners, we'll do it.
Okay, but I want to make sure you don't get in trouble with any other city agency.
We'll make sure about that. And Mr. Labange, to your comment about the alcohol and
Right.
The
Beer and
insurance
wine
that-
or spirits.
The beer and wine and
Right.
spirits. Our insurance is quite costly on the building for which we pay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it requires us. We do have coverage for that for openings, but not for sale.
Right.
For a donation of $1 a glass only. So.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I think we should figure some of these things out in a way. What we need from Cultural Affairs is a streamlined process to know that if someone gives money, it goes directly to the arts centers. It doesn't go to pay employees, it goes to the arts centers to pay whatever their costs are to operate. So that free wheel of trying to get that nurtured, I think, is key. I think this has been a spirited meeting. Regina Adams, would you please come forward from the Recreation and Parks Department?
Could I say one?
Yeah, sure.
One thing, and this is basically to the people that are in the room. We are not making it up when we're talking about the financial situation that we as a city find ourselves in. In fact, we're in the process of putting together some monies so that we can maintain our street medians. That's just to let you know how bad we don't have the money to properly maintain. They could become little jungles in the middle of the street. I'm sure the entire council is very, very sensitive to you, to everything that you said. I think that expression, you're preaching to the choir, you should recognize that you're preaching to the choir. I would suggest for you, when we have our next meeting where we discuss this situation, that you focus on not so much telling us what's going to happen if we eliminate these programs, because trust me, I'm smarter than I look, and I know what will happen if we eliminate these programs. But you should use your creativity to come and to make suggestions. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And Mr. Chairman here will direct the appropriate departments to review it. I think your question about some kind of ability to sell spirits during event, what's wrong with that? Yeah, you got some insurance concerns. Maybe there's a way to deal with that. If you will focus and use your creativity, give us ideas, and we will do the very best that we can to have those questions addressed. So I'm just saying, you make me want to cry. Make me want to do something else. Make me want to come up with a creative way to help fix the problem that we in this great city have. That's all I have to say on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weston. Appreciate it.
I'll make this fast. I know you guys have to get out of here. Regina Adams, Executive Officer for Recreation and Parks.
No, we don't. We quit.
Come on. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, and maybe you guys have already covered this. I haven't been directly involved in this. Sid Makarek from our staff has been, but I just wanted to make sure there were a couple of things that were brought to your attention. One is that since some of these facilities are on parkland, any things that are being discussed and so forth, and any potential award has to come back through the Recreation and Parks Board. So we must make sure that that's included in this process. And also, too, a few things that they will definitely be looking at is, of course, making sure that the Recreation and Parks is not responsible for the utilities, because that's definitely a concern that will be a concern for them, and also the maintenance issues inside and outside of the facilities. That will also be a concern. As far as for caretaker, Recreation and Parks, we do have some caretakers in some of our facilities, and our board recently revised our policy on things that caretakers are required to have. So if you are looking at that, something to keep in mind as well. And also for capital improvements, also what's possible is that any of the revenue that you receive from whoever might win these awards is that you can set aside, have capital improvement accounts so that, it can assist in making those capital improvements for the facilities. So it's just something to bring to your attention, the things that you should look at and could look at.
Right. LA Shares is on Recreation and Parks land. Used to be a municipal arts facility. Okay, they have no air conditioning this summer. I'm transferring what they call funds to fix their air conditioning. Okay, that is what has to happen. I'm going to get the neon going on Lancashire. These are certain things that we can do to help in that. But I appreciate Regina and Ms. Garay. Have you met with Mr. Muckbury about their foundation?
I have talked to him about.
Yeah, let's meet with him. The next meeting when we're going to ask about the creation of a Cultural Affairs Foundation on that deal. And what's the number? If someone walked in, come on up here again. If someone walked in right now, what's the number you need right now to get to July? I'm sorry? What's the number you need? So you got to come with a number. What should be our goal to try to have a foundation grant to help this umbrella?
The figure that I reported earlier of it costs approximately $1.2 million to bring these people back on board full-time does not.
I'm not interested in the people, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the people. Yeah. I want to keep these facilities open and the programs
open. That's what
that's
I was going to get to. So
okay, so let's look at it this way, because I think the whole thing that the city has to go through is we had 40,000 people working, and many of them are off the general fund, so everybody was on a special fund. Your trash will always be picked up. You know why? You pay for it. It always will happen. Your street cleaning, though, may not be, because the street cleaners may get reduced. Your street lighting will always be paid for because you pay for it. So everything's being costed like a business as opposed to a service, which the government used to be. So what I need, and I don't give us an answer, come back when the next time we meet in September, what is the some menus that we could select that would create more of an opportunity for arts, and that these art centers aren't by council district, because people from all over go to Barnsdale and all over go to some other facilities as well, so I don't want to have a parochial issue on it. We want to support that. So that'd be good.
Okay, I think that it would be important for the public to know sort of what happens next. And my understanding is that we will go back into the working group. We will thrash out some of these issues, and then we'll come back again in September. Is
Right.
that correct?
Uh-huh.
And September 21st was the...
Targeting third week of September, the
That's
special.
very good, very good.
Okay, so the jury's still out. We're still working on this. I took a lot of notes from what the people said, so we will go back into the working group and try to flesh out some more ideas.
Right. We want to reduce the charges, whatever the jury is want to lay on us. Thank you very much. Now,
Quickly, Mr. Labange, thank you. I just wanted to mention that with an eye toward this situation, the road for the past year has been working very hard to obtain corporate sponsorship because there are possibilities for that. However, we're continually thwarted because some of the main requirements for corporate sponsorship is full-time paid staff.
Right.
We have an independent contractor. We don't own the building. You know,
Got it.
we don't have security in it. But we have been thinking in those terms, and I don't know if that at all might be something to also consider moving forward.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all. On behalf of Mr. Weston and I, thank you very much. Have a good day. We'll see you on the 21st.